Have you ever found yourself so overwhelmed by emotion that you couldn't think straight? A message left unanswered, a passing remark that stings, a minor inconvenience in the morning, and suddenly your whole day unravels. We've grown accustomed to caring about everything. We care about what others think of us. We worry about how the future will unfold. We fixate on things completely beyond our control. But what if we could let go of what doesn't matter? What if we could move through the chaos of life with the calm of a stone unmoved by the current? Today, we'll uncover 10 Stoic principles to help you master the art of not caring, and more importantly, of letting go with intention, not indifference, but a conscious decision to reserve your energy for what truly deserves it. If you're ready, let us begin this journey, one that leads to inner freedom, unshakable resolve, and a soul anchored in peace. Principle 1. Care only about what you can control. Let go of the rest. At the heart of Stoic philosophy lies a fundamental distinction: what is within our control and what is not. This isn't a vague suggestion. It is a foundational mindset that shapes how we perceive the world, respond to adversity, and maintain clarity of thought. The Stoics believe that suffering does not come from external events, but from our judgments and reactions to them. It is our attachment to what lies beyond our reach that drains us. Once we grasp the boundary between our inner power and outer circumstances, we stop wasting an energy on what lies outside the realm of our action. What we truly control is limited, yet immensely powerful. Our thoughts, our attitude, our choices, our actions in response to whatever unfolds. We don't control the weather, but we can choose to carry an umbrella. We can't dictate how others behave, but we can decide not to let their rudeness poison our spirit. We cannot alter the past or predict the future, but we can act rightly in the present. This focus on the internal liberates us from helplessness. When we invest our energy solely in what lies within our choice, we begin to tap into real strength, the strength of a free person, unlimited by external chaos. On the other hand, when we obsess over things outside our control, others' opinions, outcomes, or unexpected changes, our minds become unsettled. Our emotions become tethered to uncertainty. A single criticism can sour our entire day. A disappointing result can shake our self-belief. A random event can send us spiraling into anger, anxiety, or despair, not because the event itself is overwhelming, but because we've granted it too much power over our inner world. And in doing so, we lose ourselves. To practice Stoicism is not to be indifferent. It is to act fully within the bounds of what we control, and to release our attachment to the outcome. If a project fails, the Stoic doesn't blame fate or search for someone to fault. They ask, did I give it everything I had? If the answer is yes, then whatever remains, others' approval, luck, external variables, is set aside. They move forward without bitterness or regret, because they know the one thing that truly matters, themselves, remains on the right path. True freedom, as the Stoics teach, doesn't come from controlling the world, but from not letting the world control us. When we invest our emotions only in what we can govern, the mind becomes simpler, clearer, more at peace. Life feels lighter, not because it has fewer problems, but because we no longer waste energy on unwinnable battles. Every moment presents a choice: continue fighting what cannot be changed, or let it go and focus on what can be done. In that choice, resilience is forged, and self-mastery begins to grow. Principle 2. Live fully in the present moment. Living in the present is not a trendy slogan. It is a core principle, long upheld by ancient Stoics as the foundation of inner peace. In a world where the human mind is constantly pulled back into the past or thrust forward into the future, to live fully in the now is an act of awareness, intention, and self-command. According to Stoic thought, the present moment is the only time we truly possess. The past cannot be altered. The future has yet to arrive, and any effort to control or dwell in either is fruitless and mentally exhausting. When one's mind is trapped in the memories of the past, they often fall into regret, sorrow, or self-reproach. Conversely, when one lives in a future not yet real, they become overwhelmed by anxiety, insecurity, and a sense of helplessness. The absence of the mind in the present moment is the very thing that severs our connection to ourselves and to life itself, which is only ever happening now. In Stoic philosophy, living in the present does not mean apathy toward the future. It means complete focus on what is unfolding, what we are doing, feeling, and inhabiting right now. When eating, just eat. When conversing, truly listen. When walking, feel each step, each breeze, each breath as it enters and leaves. This kind of presence not only sharpens the mind, but also fosters a natural sense of gratitude for life's simplest offerings. The Stoics understood that most suffering doesn't come from our actual circumstances, but from a mind that flees the present and clings to what is unreal. They did not reject memory, nor ignore the future, but they refused to let either dictate their happiness. Practicing presence requires discipline and deep self-observation. The Stoic trains their mind as a warrior sharpens their craft, constantly bringing themselves back to the now whenever they notice their thoughts stray. In conversation, they maintain eye contact and full attention, knowing that respect begins with presence. In repetitive daily tasks, they find calm and clarity by pouring their entire mind into the action at hand. Nothing is too mundane when done with intention. No moment is meaningless when we are truly there for it. It is this approach that creates a life of depth, one that moves slowly but endures, where each layer of experience is felt rather than rushed past and forgotten. The Stoic also knows that the present is the only solid ground on which to build the future. Every decision, every action, everything we make now lays the bricks for the life ahead. For this reason, they do not delay living while waiting for some better time to arrive. They choose to live well now, as if this were all that remains. In doing so, they avoid wasting life on uncertainties and channel their full energy into the day at hand. And it is through the accumulation of these present-minded moments that a life worth living is formed, a life in which nothing essential is ever missed. Principle 3. Embrace change as a fundamental law of life. Acceptance of change is one of the firm pillars of Stoic philosophy. The Stoics understood that everything in the universe obeys the law of constant transformation. From breath to rivers to the arc of a human life, all are expressions of perpetual change. Nothing remains forever in its original form. Everything will shift, morph, decay, and be reborn. Resisting change, therefore, is not only futile, but a source of needless suffering. Clinging to what has passed or holding on to outdated forms is to reject the most basic truth of nature. And when we go against nature, inner turmoil becomes inevitable. The Stoic does not see change as a threat, but as a natural part of existence. Every shift, the end of a relationship, a career transition, moving to a new place, or even the loss of a loved one, is a chance to reflect, to mature, and to realign ourselves with the path we're meant to walk. Rather than asking why something happened, the Stoic asks what can be learned from it. They believe that it is in times of upheaval that we are tested, our true character revealed, and our moral fiber strengthened. When something changes beyond our control, it is not the end, It is the beginning of a new chapter. Every collapse holds the seed of renewal. Every closed door may lead to another we never imagined. Stoicism does not call for passive submission to fate, but for an active, composed alignment with nature's flow. This means that when change occurs, instead of resisting or resenting it, the Stoic adjusts their mindset and actions to meet it. They are not ruled by negative emotions, nor are they thrown off course by the unexpected. Instead, they return to the one thing always within their control, their response and their inner character. Change may strip away familiarity, but it cannot take away virtue if the mind remains grounded. When the world outside shifts, the Stoic remains centered, because they know exactly who they aim to be, regardless of circumstance. To embrace change is also to release unrealistic expectations and illusions we often harbor about permanence. Nothing lasts forever, and the sooner we accept that, the less we suffer. When life defies our plans, rigid expectations are brittle and easily broken by reality. The Stoic trains the mind to be flexible, to avoid clinging to stability, and to stay prepared for transformation. In life's endless current, it is adaptability, not resistance, that keeps us moving forward with strength. By embracing change as inevitable, the Stoic aligns with nature, lives in harmony with what is, and gains an inner peace untouched by external shifts. They do not chase perfect stability. They recognize it as an illusion. Instead, they cultivate stability within, a steady presence capable of meeting life's turns with resilience, clarity, and a willingness to grow. Principle 4. Let go of the need for recognition. Letting go of the need for recognition is one of the essential steps toward inner freedom in Stoic philosophy. It is natural for human beings to crave acceptance and respect from others. However, when that desire becomes a form of dependence, the mind becomes bound to external judgment and loses its inner autonomy. The Stoic understands that true worth does not come from public approval, but from virtue and right action, whether witnessed by others or not. They do not seek praise to feel worthy, but live by an inner moral standard where doing what is right is its own reward. Relying on external validation easily leads one astray. When actions are driven by the desire to please others or to be admired, every decision risks being distorted. One may compromise principles to gain agreement, say things they don't mean to be liked, or pretend to be something they're not, out of fear of rejection. These behaviors slowly strip away one's identity, turning the self into a reflection of others' expectations. In contrast, Stoicism calls for a grounded way of living, to be unmoved by praise and unshaken by criticism. Only by stepping away from the need for applause can we truly hear our conscience and act in alignment with our inner values. Stoicism teaches that what others think of us is beyond our control. Every person sees the world through their own lens, shaped by their experiences, biases, and emotions, not by some universal truth about who we are. If we allow our emotions to be governed by others' opinions, our life becomes unstable and reactive. A compliment can uplift us momentarily, but a single insult can send us into doubt. When we no longer rely on outside approval to define our worth, we become anchored, no longer a leaf in the wind. The Stoic looks inward, measuring themselves by asking, is this action in line with my principles? Rather than, will others approve of this? They value integrity over attention and place their focus on consistency in conduct rather than fleeting praise. They know that those who walk the path of virtue are rarely met with applause, for truth often unsettles and honesty may offend. But that is the cost of freedom and dignity. In releasing the need for recognition, One frees a vast reservoir of mental energy. Instead of constantly watching how others perceive them, they turn inward, quietly but resolutely refining themselves. They no longer need external validation to trust their path. Confidence no longer stems from popular support, but from the harmony between thought, word, and deed. In that silence, inner strength is forged, and a mind untouched by flattery or blame begins to emerge. Principle 5. Understand the natural cycle of loss. In Stoic philosophy, loss is not seen as something abnormal or unjust, but as an inseparable part of nature's law. Everything in life follows a cycle: birth, growth, decline, and end. People are born, mature, age, and eventually pass away. Relationships begin with connection, grow over time, and may end, gradually or suddenly. Material things are created, used, worn down, and disappear. Nothing exists forever in its original form. Accepting this cyclical nature of life is the first step to freeing ourselves from the fear of loss. For when we understand that loss is inevitable, we no longer view it as a rare misfortune, but as a vital part of the universe's ongoing rhythm. From the Stoic perspective, loss is not a personal failure, nor a sign of bad luck. Each time something leaves our lives, whether it's an object, a relationship, our health, or a phase of life, it is simply part of nature's unmolding transformation. Loss doesn't take everything from us. It clears the way for something new to emerge. Just as a leaf must fall for the tree to bud again, just as night must come for a new day to begin, every ending holds the seed of another beginning. The Stoic does not cling to what has passed, but learns to see it as a completed chapter in their journey. Recognizing the natural cycle of loss allows us to prepare emotionally and mentally, rather than being caught off guard by grief or despair. Stoics do not live in fear of loss, nor do they lull themselves with illusions that what they cherish will last forever. They observe life's impermanence with clarity, and this awareness deepens their gratitude for the present. Knowing that a loved one may someday be gone, they show up more fully today. Knowing that success may not last, they enjoy it without arrogance. This understanding of impermanence helps them live more completely in each moment, unburdened by the fear of what might be lost. The Stoic also trains the mind not to identify with what can be taken away. They draw a clear line between what we have and who we are. A possession, a title, a companion, however valuable, does not define our essence. When something leaves us, it does not strip away our dignity, wisdom, or virtue. Those belong to the inner self and cannot be taken unless we surrender them ourselves. And so, in the face of loss, the Stoic returns to the solid ground of their own nature, seeking balance not in what changes, but in what endures within. By embracing loss as part of life's natural cycle, the Stoic does not deny sadness, but refuses to be consumed by it. They allow themselves to feel, but not to be led by emotion. They honor the falling away, much like a farmer accepts the end of a harvest to prepare for the next season. This harmony with impermanence grants them a rare calm amid life's turmoil, seeing every loss as an inevitable chapter in the unfolding book of life. Principle 6. Seek growth through adversity. In Stoic philosophy, adversity is not seen as a barrier to living well, but as an essential part of the journey toward personal refinement. The Stoic does not avoid hardship, nor do they regard suffering as an enemy. They recognize both as opportunities to cultivate virtue and fortify the inner life. Every challenge is a test of reason, resilience, and the capacity to grow through wise thought and right action. No path of growth exists without difficulty, and it is in difficulty that true maturity is forged. Adversity comes in many forms: failure in work, loss in relationships, financial hardship, illness, or betrayal. Each situation has the potential to leave us vulnerable and directionless. Yet through the Stoic lens, what matters is not the event itself, but our response to it. The same event may break one person while strengthening another. The difference lies in attitude, in the ability to govern thoughts and act in alignment with one's values, despite the surrounding chaos. The Stoic trains the mind like a muscle by placing it in situations that demand effort, thought, and adaptation. They believe that no hardship is wasted if it is used well. At every obstacle they ask, "What lesson is here?" Rather than slipping into complaint or blame, they observe themselves under pressure, notice instinctive reactions, and consciously replace them with reasoned responses. In this way, adversity becomes a proving ground for virtue, patience, courage, integrity, and the ability to remain grounded when control is lost. In this process, growth does not arrive with noise, but accumulates quietly through each choice. Every time we face hardship without sacrificing our character, we grow a little stronger, a little deeper, a little more anchored in our safety selves. The pain that once broke us becomes a valuable teacher, not only revealing who we are, but also expanding our compassion for others. From this, humility emerges, a core Stoic trait. The recognition of personal limits, coupled with the ongoing effort to rise above them through awareness and resolve. The Stoic also understands that adversity is not just a personal matter, but a universal condition of human life. No one lives without loss, pain, or error. Therefore, hardship is not viewed as an exception, but as a natural law we all must meet tomorrow. Facing difficulty does not make them feel cursed or exceptional. It makes them tested, and through this test, they demonstrate their inner strength and steadfast spirit. That is why, when adversity arrives, the Stoic does not retreat, but steps into it, as into a necessary training ground for becoming the person they were born to be. Principle 7. Wealth lies not in what you possess, but in what you can live without. Stoic philosophy redefines the very notion of wealth. While society often measures it by possessions, status, or fame, the Stoic asserts that true wealth is not about having more, but about needing less. To them, the wealthy person is not the one who owns everything, but the one who is not enslaved by the desire for more. Because desire never ends, tying your worth to what you chase guarantees a life of dissatisfaction and lack. In contrast, when the mind is trained to be content with essentials and not cling to what exceeds necessity, one attains an enduring inner freedom that material goods can never offer. The Stoic makes a clear distinction between true sufficiency and superficial abundance. One may own much and still live in fear, envy, and insecurity. This shows that material wealth does not guarantee peace of mind. Meanwhile, someone with little who is free from craving can live with calm, freedom, and joy. Mastery over one's own needs is a far more accurate measure than any sum of assets. They view moderation as a virtue, not out of contempt for material things, but from the understanding that endless indulgence dulls our ability to appreciate life's simplest gifts. Needing little to live well does not mean rejecting comfort or success. The Stoic does not oppose improved conditions, but remains vigilant against the temptation to equate self-worth with what can be measured. They practice gratitude for what they have and refuse to let their contentment hinge on acquiring more. Because each time happiness depends on something external, control over one's peace is handed to forces beyond reach. In that exchange, happiness becomes fragile, easily taken, never set free. The Stoic trains themselves to enjoy simplicity, to find contentment in small things, and to reject the metrics of modern society as arbiters of their worth. They understand that desire is a loop with no conclusion. Achieve one goal, and another more enticing appears, then another, and the chase never ends. But when the mind is liberated from that cycle, a person can pause, breathe, and feel fullness in the moment they inhabit. That fullness is the mark of enduring wealth. In the Stoic view, wealth is an inner state where one is no longer driven by endless wanting, no longer defined by ownership, but finds meaning in a life of intentional simplicity, awareness, and self-realization. When someone needs little to feel complete, they become not only lighter in spirit, but also less vulnerable to the world's volatility. They live freely, not because they have everything, but because they no longer need everything to be true to themselves. Principle 8. Respect fate rather than resist it. Stoic philosophy encourages us to live in harmony with nature and to respect the order of the universe by accepting fate as an inseparable part of life. Instead of resisting what happens outside our will, the Stoic learns to walk alongside reality, not out of resignation, but from the understanding that everything occurs for a reason within a greater design we cannot fully see. They do not demand that life unfold according to their preferences or ideas. Rather, they train the mind to want what is happening. This shift creates inner autonomy, a steadiness untouched by external changes or the instability of the world. This mindset does not eliminate action or the pursuit of self-improvement. It emphasizes that when something cannot be changed, resistance only deepens suffering. When a loss, failure, or crisis has already happened, denial or complaint will not undo it. Instead, acceptance allows the mind to remain clear and composed in response. The Stoic believes that everything which arises is part of a natural order in which we participate, not as central figures entitled to control, but as members of a larger whole. By adjusting attitude instead of forcing outcomes, they find peace even amid hardship. Respecting fate requires deep understanding of human limitation. Some things lie permanently beyond anyone's control. Life and death, illness, natural events, or how others think and behave. When one pauses to accept that not everything is within their grasp, they begin to live with greater humility and effectiveness. No longer wasting energy on blame or unrealistic wishes, they focus on what can be changed: their reactions, choices, and character. This not only helps them adapt more skillfully to change, but also preserves mental clarity in an unpredictable world. Stoicism also teaches that accepting fate is an active stance, not a passive one. It is a choice to align with life's flow rather than fight against it. This attitude is called amor fati, to love one's fate, not merely to endure what happens, but to embrace it as a natural part of growth and becoming. When this is done, adversity is no longer the enemy. It becomes the teacher. One shifts from victimhood to learning, from frustration to gratitude, from resistance to creating meaning within one's circumstances. Respecting fate is not surrender. It is the expression of wisdom and courage. In situations where nothing can be changed, calm acceptance not only helps one endure, but fosters depth and compassion. They no longer waste time asking, "Why me?" but instead ask, "What can I do now to live in accordance with my values?" That question opens the path to right action and moves them forward, unbound by the past and undeterred by the unchangeable. Principle 9. Serve others as an extension of yourself. In Stoic philosophy, the individual is not seen as an isolated being, detached from the rest of the world, but as an inseparable part of the human community and of nature itself. Each person is like a cell within a larger body, and the function of a cell only has meaning when it contributes to the harmonious operation of the whole. From this foundation, Stoics believe that living virtuously cannot be separated from serving others. Every right action is not only for personal growth, but also for the well-being and stability of the collective to which we belong. Serving others, therefore, is not an imposed duty, but a natural expression of inner character, formed through understanding one's role in the human ecosystem. The Stoic does not seek praise for helping others, because for them, kindness needs no audience. Acts of altruism arise from the recognition that all people share a common rational nature and are shaped by circumstances, emotions, and individual limitations. When someone stumbles, the Stoic does not judge, they help, knowing they too could face the same fate at any moment. Service to the community is not driven by pity or superiority, but by deep empathy and the sense of interconnection shared by all humans in the web of life. In this view, doing good for others preserves the balance of the whole and reaffirms the integrity within the one who serves. The ability to help others is not dependent on status or wealth, but on one's attitude and willingness to give. A sincere word, a small gesture, a moment of listening without judgment, all are powerful forms of service. The Stoic values substance over appearance, prioritizing genuine action over performative virtue. They avoid grand displays of goodness, yet never miss the chance to do what is right when it lies within their power. Service does not need to be grand, but it must be sincere, stemming from free will and a lasting commitment to moral values. Stoic philosophy also teaches that when people focus too much on themselves, they easily fall into isolation, selfishness, and suffering. In contrast, when they open their hearts to others, the mind expands, and personal worries begin to lose their weight. Living for others does not diminish the self. It extends its boundaries, merging it with the greater whole, and creates a deep sense of connection with the world. In that state, one no longer lives just to fulfill personal needs, but to contribute to shared progress and harmony. Even in the smallest way, they do not place themselves at the center, but choose to serve as a moral principle, upheld through daily actions and decisions. By serving others as an extension of themselves, the Stoic lives in a way that is both humble and strong. They expect nothing in return, yet in that detachment, they find profound peace. Each act of kindness not only eases the pain in the world, but reaffirms the virtue within the one who gives. This is how they maintain inner order, live in harmony with society, and fulfill the role that nature has assigned to a rational being. Principle 10. Reflect daily to renew yourself. In Stoic philosophy, self-reflection is an essential practice for preserving virtue, strengthening reason, and pursuing continuous self-improvement. The Stoic is not only concerned with actions, but takes time to examine their motives, thoughts, and responses to past situations. This process of introspection is not about self-punishment or guilt. It is a means to understand behavior more deeply and recognize the link between thought and outcome. They believe that without time for reflection, one easily falls into cycles of poor habit, becomes ruled by emotion unconsciously, and continues acting without meaningful growth. Reflection is viewed as a method of refining intellect and character. The Stoic often spends time at the end of the day in quiet review of what transpired. They ask concrete questions. How did I behave in this situation? Did I remain calm when provoked? Did I speak truthfully? Did I act in alignment with my principles? Through such questions, they evaluate not just external conduct, but the inner source. where emotion, thought, and choice originate. This practice helps separate rational intention from emotional or habitual reaction. The Stoic sees each day as a cycle of training and learning. They don't aim for instant perfection, but steady improvement by identifying faults and making gradual corrections. Rather than being haunted by past mistakes, they use them as material for self-betterment. Reflection reveals the gap between personal ideals and actual behavior, awakening a sense of responsibility without requiring judgment from others. This inner accountability makes them more honest with themselves, less reliant on praise or criticism, and better able to shape a life of stability from within. Self-reflection also helps the Stoic navigate life with greater intentionality. By understanding their mental and behavioral tendencies, they can anticipate future situations and avoid reacting blindly when patterns repeat. They learn to observe emotions as they arise, rather than recognizing them only after they erupt. They develop a mind like a watchman, always alert, never letting a reaction pass unexamined. As a result, their life moves slower in awareness, but grows deeper in meaning. Ultimately, reflection in Stoicism goes beyond analysis. It must lead to action. Insight is of little worth if it does not produce better behavior. That's why each evening review is paired with a commitment. Tomorrow, I will live with greater integrity, with more care, and closer to the values I pursue. It is this daily cycle of examination, learning, and adjustment that shapes a life of depth, a life not swept away by habit, but consciously sculpted through continuous attention and awareness. When I first approached Stoicism, I realized this philosophy doesn't ask us to become someone else. It helps us return to ourselves in the strongest and most conscious version we can be. What changed me wasn't abstract theory, but how practical it is in everyday life. Each morning when I wake up, I ask myself, what might happen today that's beyond my control? That simple question prepares my mind for the unpredictability of the day. Traffic jams, disagreements, devices, or silence from someone I care about. Instead of reacting with anger or disappointment, I remind myself it's not my fault, and what I can control is how I respond. When I face challenges at work, I no longer ask why life is so unfair. Instead, I focus on what I can improve: my skills, communication, or emotional regulation. The habit of journaling each night has become a steady anchor. I write down what unsettled me, what made me proud, and what I could have done differently. Each sentence is a small step in the journey of personal refinement. For me, Stoicism isn't some distant ideal. It's a tool for living, helping me stay calm under criticism, grounded in uncertainty, and lighter when it's time to let go of what no longer fits. If you've stayed with me until now, perhaps something within you, like within me, is searching for a steadier, freer, more peaceful way to live in a world full of change. Stoicism doesn't turn us into emotionless beings. It teaches us to choose what's worth our attention and what is best left behind. These principles don't belong only in books. They're waiting to come alive through each small act of the daily living. If this video sparked something in you, please hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to continue this journey with me into the depths of inner clarity. And if you're already practicing any Stoic principles, I'd love to hear your experience in the comments. I read everyone and deeply value that connection. I'll see you in the next video.